Yes, Walz can do retail much better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris still has that like elitist California stink on her a little bit when she's running around. You put this man in the Rust Belt, he's going to thrive. That's what he does. He's a goddamn teacher from Minnesota. He is 100p a phenomenal pick. I'm saying it. It's crazy. It's actually so crazy. They're awesome. It's great. Everything so far has been going according to plan. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many massive flubs on the timeline. Oh my God, I can't wait to go over this. Oh my God. Balls to the walls, baby. It's Minnesota time. Democrats should get excited at the fact that, you know, they've accidentally lucked into like a good situation. They just like, he's so solid, it freaks me out. Like, it just like freaks me out that the Democrats actually went with the smart choice and not like the scared pick. Shapiro actually failed the vibes test. Yeah, we got a lot of inside baseball analysis coming on this front. But yeah, they're pulling the socialists as a house on Walz too. Oh hell yeah, dude. Oh hell yeah. They got nothing. They got nothing. First of all, he's not a socialist, bro. Shut the fuck up. He's the governor of Minnesota. Like, you can't say stuff like that. These guys are so brain broken. Oh my God, everything is falling in line, dude. All the cards are in place. Virtually every single thing. That's how you know they're failing big time, okay? If you want to know, the Democrats are doing so well because the Republican messaging on this front have been so bad. Okay, they're so bad. It's so bad. They're talking about how he like taught in China for a year and knows how to speak Mandarin. It's like they're gonna be calling him a Chinese spy. They're gonna say he's the Manchurian candidate and shit. And you know, they're really just gonna push away what remains of like the rest of the normal people living in the Rust Belt. They've also been making a lot of comparisons to Bernie Sanders, a notoriously unpopular figure. Yeah, it's so funny. It's so awesome. And like, the media instincts are also bad on this. Like, they just don't understand, you know, they're just, man, what a turnaround. I know. In what appears to be just a month-long sequence of W's from the Democratic Party, just doing basic competence, okay? Like, doing basic decency and competence and not like objectively trying to gaslight the entirety of the country on shit that they can literally physically visibly see. Okay, instead of doing that, they were like, hey, how about we act like a party that wants to win an election? What if we were to say, hey, this guy that was at the top of the ticket, the current Democratic leader is too old. Everyone can kind of see it. Maybe we should swap him out for a younger, more vibrant, more dynamic, more dynamic candidate that isn't like dying. And there was resistance to it. There was resistance to that. And yet Nancy Pelosi pulled through. Why the fuck am I talking about this? Because Nancy Pelosi, like I said, unlocked Ultra Instinct and did. Nancy Pelosi unlocked Ultra Instinct and did the damn thing that I have never seen the Democrats do ever, honestly. Okay, I've never seen the Democrats behave like a competent party. They swapped out Biden right after the RNC, right after Donald Trump had been shot, cut into that media cycle immediately, put Republicans on a defensive posture, got them to also openly show the rest of the country that they had no option. They had no alternative for like a move like this happening, even though they were calling for it for years. Okay. And all of a sudden, we're in a situation now where like people don't even associate Kamala Harris with like all of the worst aspects of the Biden policies. Like, there was 2 years of negative real wage growth in the country, and people don't even tack that on Kamala Harris. Like, that's not even a point of contention, partially because the Republicans are fumbling the goddamn bag. They can't even have a normal candidate. They can't have a normal campaign. They're having the hardest time. They're like, They're too busy going, no fair, no fair. Why did you do this to us? How dare you actually play like a normal? How dare you actually act like you want to win? You're supposed to be the permanent losers in this situation. This doesn't make any sense. And all they've done so far is basically dispute whether Kamala Harris is a black woman, which is like a ridiculous thing. It's like dumber than being a flat earther because at least the earth looks flat. Kamala Harris is like, you can do a visual check to figure out if what this person is saying is correct or not. She's black. She's a black woman. Like, what the f do you mean she's not black? Like, what are you saying? Like, that is such an insane thing to say. And like, that's what they're going on with. And JD Vance has an entire library, like a Lord of the Rings extended director's cut, like with commentary edition, like entire like 8-hour long sequence of podcasts that he's appeared on, where he went on like the Groyper Rapist podcast, and he goes on there and he's talking about how like women that don't have children are sociopathic actually and should be like forcibly bred in camps. Like, what is happening? What are you guys doing, dude? What are you doing? Like, you forgot you're suffering from your own success. You literally forgot how to run like normal campaigns. Just say you want to cut taxes, man. Like, just say you want to cut taxes, dumbass. The f is wrong with you? Anyway, yeah, this is the moment. This is something that it's so funny that Walz is the pick because progressives, even leftists, have been writing for the Minnesota Democrats for quite some time. Like, I myself have offered some coverage on that, like way back in the day. As soon as there was a one-person majority, like one-seat majority in Minnesota, they went to town. They went nutty with it. They were like, oh yeah, no more hungry children, actually. Sorry, sucks to suck. Yeah, we're gonna do paid family leave. We're gonna do all these things like no more captive meetings that are obviously anti-labor. Like all this stuff, they just went boom, 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 boom. They put those numbers on the board. They went crazy with it. And honestly, it was great. This is why, like, Walz, for a lot of people, Walz might be out of nowhere. You know, they're like, who the fuck is this guy? He just seems like an old man. Ironically enough, he's like around the same age as Kamala Harris, even though he looks much, much older. Who's this like folksy guy? No, he's been doing the damn thing. I've said it before. Obviously, yeah, Midwestern Dems with a one-seat majority are Leninist vanguardists. Like we've made all these jokes years ago. I have talked about how like this is exactly like the Minnesota Democratic Party is like exactly what the Democratic Party is supposed to be like, is exactly supposed to operate like this. Okay. And you know, they're doing it. They did it. And yeah, we're going to talk about Hamas as well, by the way. But and the Republicans literally don't know. They don't know what to do. They have no way of dealing with this shit. Okay? They have no way of dealing with this shit. They just have no way of dealing with it. They don't know. The Republicans are in panic mode. Okay? Yeah. Also, before the Maoist third worlders get mad, China and, Walz literally taught high school in China. He lived in China. Okay? He literally has openly stated he doesn't want an adversarial relationship with China.
I've been focusing on, and I lived in China, and as I said, I've been there about 30 times, but if someone tells you they're an expert on China, they're probably not telling you the truth because it's a complex country, but it's critically important for us. I don't fall into the category that China necessarily needs to be an adversarial relationship.
Van Jones says Dems appeasing anti-Jewish bigots. I think Van Jones needs to shut the up. He needs to shut his bitch ass up, okay? Go cry about Joseph Robinette Biden dropping out of the race more, bitch. Suck my dick, Van Jones, you bitch. You used to be a goddamn Maoist in San Francisco talking about America, KKK. Now, you big phony, you're running your mouth like this on CNN. Suck my dick, dude. Fuck you, Van Jones. Fuck you, dude. Bitch ass. Stupid bitch. Fuck him. I mean, seriously, fuck him, dude.
It was a little risky, though, Van, that she didn't go with Shapiro to kind of lock down Pennsylvania. I mean, yes, David Chowling was saying earlier.
God, he's such a bitch, dude. Yeah, all these guys can cope and seethe, okay? All these guys can cope and seethe. And by the way, all the Republicans are coping and seething. Like, shut the fuck up. You called that anti-Jewish false sentiment? I did call that. But I don't expect the CNN liberal to say it. You're a libtard. What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Yeah, this is my video on Minnesota. This is how you get shit done. Which you can watch on YouTube if you're wondering what these legislative victories look like. Back when Will Stancil was like, I mean, Will Stancil, I guess, is still a big time advocate for fucking Walz. So he's right on that one, at least. AOC live on Instagram. What's she talking about? Yeah, they're going to get real racist with it, by the way. The Dem ticket is reportedly swapping out Josh Shapiro with a government who's beholden to CARE, the infamous U.S.-based Hamas front group. Last week, a top CARE official publicly mourned Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh's death, declaring that his martyrdom is not in vain. Yeah, so Minnesota has a lot of Somalis, okay? Is a state with a big chunk of Muslim refugees, a big chunk of Muslim population. It's not as big as, like, obviously the Michigan Dearborn population, but Minnesota's got a lot of Somalis, all right? And, like, the thing is, this, in my opinion, also plays a big role potentially for, you know, I don't know, maybe for the future of America's, like, foreign policy. Who knows? Who knows what kind of interest he's going to have? But he's just not. He doesn't strike me as the type of dude, especially listening to what he said about the Somali population that he has defended, consistently. Honestly, it makes me feel hopeful that he won't be like a psychopath. He's also a vet. He's a veteran who he's a football coach. He was a teacher. He was a veteran. He literally sat on a bunch of committees, including, I think, like the Veteran Affairs Committee, and also on top of that, even all the way back in like 2007, I believe, like he literally was like way back in the day, he was already like anti-Iraq war as well. So like he's got interesting takes, progressive favor with mainstream views on Israel, Iran. Yeah, like he's definitely gonna be a hawk. He's definitely gonna be a hawk on like Iran and Israel and shit like that, which is obvious. Like, you know, don't be crazy. But he's had like some unique ass takes in terms of he's had some unique and very interesting takes in terms of like escalating against Syria and shit like that. He's an interesting guy. Like I think that overall he is a really, really solid pick. I already see Dem operatives running the anti-Semitism line and hyper online leftists talking about him making an official Falun Dafa day. Can't have anything even slightly good. Anyway, we'll see. Here, I'll watch the dude, there's so much going on and I'm like a little bit heated. I'll watch AOC's live stream. She's talking about Walz, and then we'll move on.
What our values actually are. And Trump and JD Vance are like the creepiest people you've ever met in your life. Like truly. Like I think I mean, where do we even start with JD Vance? Like, he's weirdly obsessed with women's bodies and reproductive systems. They are creepily obsessed with LGBT people. Like, I don't think normal people are this concerned with what's going on in other people's situations, you know, like you kind of keep your hands to yourself, right? They don't know how to do that.
Great take, AOC. Great take,
and
AOC.
We're here to kind of make things normal, but not just normal, actually try to commit to a policy agenda that
wait, how come my blue check mark doesn't show when I write in the chat, but other people's does?
Want to try to make that part of our conversation. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about this moment is that
I didn't see a blast off. Did you publish it? Oh my God, did I forget to blast off?
Together.
Hold on, dude. I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry. I've been like really excited.
That Governor Walz was her running mate, and I believe there was a reporter that had tweeted saying, you know, both someone like me and Joe Manchin are supportive of Tim Walz as the pick, and that really is no small.
I forgot to blast off.
It's really.
Does anyone have the
nuts.
Does anyone have that
am trying to think
Sarah
about the
Fuckabee
last
meme.
Respectfully, we're
Does
on
anyone have the
same
Sarah
side of
Fuckabee
it, too.
Sanders meme chat?
And it's not,
Can you resend that to me?
It's not common, not often. It
The
speaks to how
Waltz
powerfully
versus Sarah
uniting,
Fuckabee Sanders
this is.
meme, when it's like,
And I also want to speak to
when you
to
wanna
about this
Sarah
moment
Huckabee
is that
Sanders
we're not leaving
versus
those
Tim
values
Walz,
by the
like when
wayside.
she
We are
made
here
child
to make
labor.
sure that we.
Here
one
we
of the
go.
things
We
that I have
blasted
to
off. We
communicate,
blasted
like,
off.
when
And
I'm
I'm running the
on
3-minute
side,
ad break at the top of the
when I'm
hour.
talking to other
43K in
elected
here without a
officials or
blast
other
off. We're so
people
back.
already,
We're so
it's
back, boys.
a generational shift.
If you want an uninterrupted
doesn't
broadcast
just mean
experience,
that
all
you're
you need to do is
electing
subscribe
younger
for $5 or for free.
Like,
You already
there's
know
a
what it
reason
is.
why
Twitch Primes are
young
free,
people
folks. We blasted
were
off.
so
We're back.
supportive of Senator Sanders in 2020.
We're
He had
locked
the
in,
most
baby.
amount of youth
We're
support
locked the
when there were
in.
candidates that were younger than him. There's a reason why young people elected and
Here's the
supported
3-minute ad
Ed
break
Markey,
now.
Senator Ed Markey in Massachusetts over younger candidates and options. Because I think, and something that I've heard from a lot of other elected officials before, is that young people and young voters are far more substantive than I think elected officials are used to us being in the past. Like, it's, I think a lot of elected officials had dealt with this. I don't know if it was a stereotype or their experience of young people as being apathetic or uninvolved. And if anything, right now, I feel like sometimes when people don't vote, it's not because they're uninformed. It's actually because they're very informed and maybe they don't like their options or maybe they're unhappy with something, but they are very keyed in and informed about what's going on. And now what I'm also sensing is like there is an enormous substance to the youth vote. They want to know about what's happening to end the war in Gaza.
What the fuck,
they
Rando
want to
Jen?
know about
Thank you for the
what
10
policy
gifted.
commitments we're going to make to stop the climate crisis.
I
They
don't
want to know
entirely
what
agree
we're
with this. I think like for this community and for a lot of the people that she communicates with, dialogues with that are young and progressive, yes. Like you got the Sunrise Movement, you got people like that. Those people are definitely very invested in like policies, very invested in changing America's outcome, changing America's future, especially when it comes to foreign policy like Gaza, right? But then you have the Aiden Ross constituency, right? Like there are a shit ton of people. Those are non-voters for the most part, but there are a shit ton of people in that Aiden Ross part of the equation that absolutely are just like completely oblivious and say things like, yeah, literal iPad kids and fans of Aiden Ross that are like voter eligible. Not all, obviously, a lot of his fan base is like 12, but still, there are a lot of people who like don't understand politics at all. I'm reminded of that conversation that he had with Your Rage a while back in Kai Cenat, where he was talking about how like Joe Biden is the reason why abortion is banned. The replies to the no more genocide tweets today. Liberals think Biden stopped aid to Israel months ago. Wait, what? The bottom pick is from a charter school bill, not a child labor law bill. Oh, I didn't realize that the pick was flaked up from a charter school bill. You do realize that the child labor law bill did happen, though. Like Sarah Huckabee Sanders did actually unrestrict child labor regulation. Like that photo might not be from the child labor one, but she did do that. That was an actual bill that she passed. So that's not fake.
of being populist, working class, labor Democrats with the added integration of a modern intersectional lens that is aware of racial rights, that is aware of women's rights, that's aware of and fights for civil and LGBT rights, and integrates the material identity values, not just superficial. We're not talking about tokenism. We're not talking about just pure representational politics. I think people are just so much more aware that this is so much more about being the first, but it's about like embodying what a first means, which means fighting for the people and places that we come from. And I think that Tim Walz does that. I think that Kamala Harris does that. And, I think that what our role is from a grassroots perspective is to continue to organize with discipline and to continue to organize with a lot of commitment on a policy basis.
What was my first
in
reaction?
Coalition,
I jumped out of bed.
as we stop the tide of fascism. And I think lastly, one of the things that's so incredibly important for everybody to understand is that this is not going to be easy, okay? We're in a very exciting moment. And I think that this excitement, and I hope that this excitement sustains through November. But it cannot just be about excitement. Our success is directly correlated in how we translate this energy into actual individual.
All right. We've heard this a million times. No disrespect to AOC. I got to move on. There's a lot going on. Hearing you glaze walls, maybe bet 50 on him at 600 plus 600. So you made me like $300. Thanks, Goat. Yeah. I'm gonna need a cut from all of the predicted Andys in the chat who just come in here, listen to what I have to say, and then make decisions off of that and go to the betting markets. Y'all are gonna need to actually gift some subs back to the community. Okay. I'm sorry. It's for far too long. You've been coming in here. You've been repeating my statements to sound informed and smart, maybe to get pussy too on top of that. Okay. And that's fine. Okay. Spread the good word. But like, you can't be out here making predicted, putting money down on predicted, making a big bag, and then not gifting community gifted subs back to the community, allowing people to no longer see ads at the top of the hour, in the middle of the hour, that type of shit. Okay. Anyway, so here's what the RNC research has found so far on Tim Walz. I'm gonna give you guys like I'm gonna try. I'm really excited. I'm a little bit all over the place. So like I'm having a hard time just explaining to you, just centering myself and just like having a normal coverage over this, because it's like the Democratic Party doing actually smart moves has like broken my brain a little bit too. It's not just the Republicans that are brain broken. I'm brain broken as well, because like I don't ever expect this shit either. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm so used to them being dickheads that it like literally broke my brain a little bit too. But yeah, here, let's start off with the Kamala Harris pick. Let's get a little bit on the background, and then we'll continue. We'll talk about like what the Republicans are doing right now.
The breaking news is big in this unprecedented campaign, this season the likes of which we have never seen before. We have one more major development. Vice President Kamala Harris, the presumptive Democratic nominee now for President of the United States, has selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. Week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe seen as a dark horse. Now he has emerged as the choice. Our MJ Lee, Jeff Zeleny, John King, Jamie Gangel, all reporting on this. MJ just saying maybe Walz, a vibes pick, seen as a Midwestern happy warrior. John King is here with us in New York, watching this unfold before our eyes. Let's just start, reset at the top of the hour, what Tim Walz means for this ticket now.
It means, number one, the Democrats have their ticket. They're about to go into their convention, and after Kamala Harris clinched the nomination with the most unorthodox nominating process of our lifetime, the President of the United States steps aside after winning the primaries. She wins a virtual voting among the delegates, and then she wants to make this decision. She wants all this cleaned up before they get to Chicago for the convention, so that can all be about prosecuting the case against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and against the Republicans. So a very truncated process, a lot of pressure on the vice president. So as the voters out there get to judge, how she's handling this first big executive decision. So why Tim Walz? We're showing pictures of him right there in a jacket and a shirt with no tie on. Earlier we had pictures of him in a T-shirt. I do think the contrast here is going to be striking. This is a small town Midwesterner. This is a man who won a Republican House seat and held it in very difficult years for Democrats.
I asked this question to Sam Cedars and got jumped on. My question is, what has changed? Why is everyone so hyped about Walz? How would this address our foreign policy concerns? You will get jumped on because this is a moment where like people are finally tuning back into politics, and a lot of people are just straight ticket liberals in general, and they don't personally give a single about American foreign policy. That is by design, mind you. The American foreign policy is brutal, it's ruthless, it's bloodthirsty, it's maniacal, and that is precisely the reason why it is not in the forefront of American minds. Ever. Foreign policy has the capacity to make or break elections only when it reaches a certain boiling point, we could technically still reach that boiling point, by the way. When people talk about like nothing ever happens, they mean like nothing ever happens to America, right? They don't mean like nothing ever happens, because things are happening all the time. A genocide is happening, for example. But that's the reason why people will yell at you and say that you're like spoiling the fun that they're having right now. Ultimately, I always manage my expectations. I grade on a curve when it comes to American politics. When I'm doing like election analysis, I'm not doing election analysis from simply my moral perspective, even though I'm very honest about my own personal motivations and my own personal, moral opinions, my own morality. I'm almost always tried to associate it with like electability, so that the broader American base of support develop a better understanding. But in terms of this changing the outcome of American foreign policy, I don't think there is any sort of, so you're just sheepdogging for clout? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. And not because I also personally think that like marginal improvements in the right direction make ease of access for labor union participation and organizing ahead of time in a country where there is no organizing, in a country where if you say I want paid family leave, they call you a socialist and say that you've killed 100 gorillion people. Considering that I've been doing this for the past 10 years, I think I know what the fuck I'm doing. Maybe I keep doing what I'm doing, but I wish you well in your in the way that you're doing it. Yeah, the big time clout that I get. So big time clout that I get from being a leftist. Anyway, so this is obviously significantly better than the former option that we were locked in with. Another leftist streamer made the argument that Walz would be a bad pick based on the good policies he's done, which is why it had to be Bashar because he's a bland candidate that Republicans would attack him on. What? No. So where was I? But yeah, ultimately most Americans do not care about foreign policy. And if you bring it up, they're like, oh, you're a radical, you're a piece of shit, even though you're right, you're not wrong, right? But as far as foreign policy goes, do I think Walz is going to be like all that different from the average Democrat? Probably not. Okay. But as it stands, I was a big time Bernie advocate, as you guys know. And I literally also said the same shit about Bernie in terms of foreign policy. And I said this time and time again, Bernie Sanders had like a bunch of differences, a bunch of moments where he differentiated from the average Democrat, especially on Israel. But like ultimately, it's not like he's going to be he was ever going to be like the true anti-war vanguardist leader that you think he was going to be. He was not. You have to grade on a curve. You have to manage your expectations. You don't have to care about American elections, but if you do care about American elections, you have to understand that, there's obviously like American elections are going to be spoken about within the confines of America. And Americans are very selfish. They don't really give a shit about our foreign policy. And it is not something that moves the needle. Having said that, in terms of Israel, it does move the needle a little bit in key districts, in key states like Michigan, for example. Okay. But yeah, Walz has a really interesting background on foreign policy from his time living in China, where he was a teacher in China, and also has talked about not having an adversarial relationship with China, which is like genuinely weird to hear from a Democrat. So, there is definitely some good there. Okay, he speaks a little bit of Mandarin. He was anti-intervention in Syria. He has been at times anti-interventionist. He's been at times a party loyalist that voted along the party lines. So that is important to understand, though. That is important to put within the context of like the rest of the Democratic Party. In terms of his stuff with respect to Muslim populations, he has a big Somali constituency in his state. He has actively defended them on the record time and time again. That's why they're attacking him and saying he's like beholden to care. Okay. He's not going to be aggressive in being like anti-Israel or anything like that. Make no mistake. But having said that, we'll see. Okay. I am not going to make any predictions on that front. Do I suspect him of being like do I suspect him of being like above and beyond on the issue of Israel? Who knows? Probably not. He is just like every other Democrat. He's just like every other Democrat and on that issue.
he held on to it. So he has that small town rural appeal, which is why did Donald Trump pick J.D. Vance. Sort of the same idea. Can you go into small communities and make the case? He's the chairman of the Democratic Governors Association. I can tell you his fellow Democratic governors love him, love him. They think he's smart. They think he builds consensus. They think he's really funny. And so they like being in his company. And that matters in a campaign. In terms of Harris being out, are you confident that do you have the loyalty and do you trust your partner out there on the campaign trail? Does that person at tense moments, and there will be a lot of tense moments in the next 90 days of this campaign, make you laugh and make you smile and maybe take some of the pressure off you? Can you do the small market television? Walz fits that bill. Now,
yes, Walz can do retail much better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris still has that like elitist California stink on her a little bit when she's running around. She plays well to younger voters for sure, but like ultimately, you put this man in the Rust Belt, he's gonna thrive. That's where he's from. You know, that's what he does. That's his shit. He's a goddamn teacher from Minnesota. All right. So that he's got like a lovable older coach energy because that is what he is. He's got a decent amount of time in the legislative body. He has performed and outperformed the Democratic Party routinely as the governor. He's a popular governor. He's done a lot. His legislative accomplishments in 2023 onward is pretty solid as well. Like he is 100p a phenomenal pick, a great pick. Okay, top of the leaderboard pick. Absolutely stoked for this. Absolutely stoked for this. He also has a DUI on his record. That say no more. That makes it even better. So the Democrats have obviously set us up for low expectations time and time again. Up until the last moment, I straight up thought that they would still go with Shapiro because Shapiro was the scared pick. Okay, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, was the scared pick. Okay, that was the pick you do when you're not confident in your abilities of running and winning PA on your own. Okay, and honestly, I genuinely thought like it's still gonna be a bad pick. It's still gonna be a bad pick. It's not gonna be a good pick. And ultimately, they went with the good pick. I do think that they are responding positively to what they are hearing and what they are seeing from the progressive wing of the base of support in the Democratic Party. I do think that. Now, obviously, this presents an opportunity. Keep pushing on this front, specifically on Israel, okay? Every unlikable leftist I've ever seen is really out here like he's not leftist Jesus, therefore I will be not voting. Yeah. Don't listen to these people, okay? Don't. It's fine. Those people probably do a phenomenal amount of activism. They're at the forefront of all these movements and stuff like that. It's great. Those people are your allies. Those people are necessary. But this is elections. This is electoral politics. They don't vote anyway. Who gives a shit? You're like, yeah, that's fine. Who cares? Like I was duking it out with some people in my own Hoscord. There was a Nigerian Hoscorder who was like yelling about the VP pick not being like a revolutionary pick. And I was like, listen, brother, I love you. But like, it's like saying the global South is upset about, the Minnesota State Comptroller. Like, yeah, of course, this is not like a global South pick. There is no global South pick. We're talking about American empire, right? The most that America could do is step aside and allow the revolutionary potential of the third world to continue. Okay, that's the most you can expect from the imperial core, which is not going to happen anyway. I'm over here looking at a hemorrhaging country, a country that's bleeding, and a country that is on its last leg, basically being actively more violent year over year, and trying to create a system, or at least like envisioning a system where it's like at least a little bit better in terms of organizing, so that there can be actual progressive momentum in this country, labor momentum in this country. That's it. That's what I care about. I thought crime was down. What? Crime is down. What are you talking about? When I say hemorrhaging, when I talk about America dying, I'm talking about like American empire. I'm talking about income inequality. I'm talking about the very obvious instability that we are staring down currently. Anyway, how is a guy that created free breakfast and lunch not a radical pig in a good way? It's insane to me. What do they expect? America's getting more violent every year. Yes, I meant on its foreign policy. I don't mean that like America internally is getting more violent. America's always been pretty violent in general. Crime is down, but that's besides the point. I'm talking specifically about America's active participation in global violence. Okay? Anyway, let's continue.
We're going to see how he plays out. And again, I'll be a broken record on this. There is no data in the 37 years I've been doing this that says your vice presidential pick makes the difference in the end. However, it can hurt you. We could have a conversation about has Vance hurt Trump or at least stalled Trump's momentum a little.
Walz is the one that sent the National Guard in during the George Floyd protest and has been making it harder to persecute cops and implements reforms in Minneapolis. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting take because it's a big column A, column B on that front as well, because he does have some weaknesses. You just mentioned two solid ones, but he's also the same guy that, if I'm not mistaken, allowed the Keith Harrison prosecution to occur, right? Or hold on, no, not Keith Harrison. Keith Ellison, not Harrison. Sorry. He's the one. Wait, hold on. He's the one who pushed. Like he's the one who at least didn't get in the way of Keith Ellison, not Harrison. I apologize. And I think that that in and of itself is like pretty solid. Yeah, he also lamented on his abject failure of riot response. Somber Minnesota Governor Tim Walz confronted criticism after a third night of destructive protests in response to George Floyd's death in police custody. National Guard officers said the mission lacked clarity. So he is, like I said, he is an interesting guy even on this front as well. But of course, no politician is perfect, and Walz is not perfect either. No leftist who votes thinks that we're going to vote ourselves into a socialist utopia with one election. Ultimately, meaningful change will come from some amount of violence here at home. And news like Walz being picked for VP speaks to a future where that great change comes with potentially less violence here at home. But maybe I'm speaking out of my ass. I think it's a good idea. This is a good thing for Norman leftists who vote. Yeah. I think ultimately, look, man, I want nice things. Okay. I just want what? Oh no. TikTok and Instagram, Hasan Pike. They got my username wrong. Twitter leftists are going to hate on any option unless it's a Che reincarnate. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as Twitter leftists. Okay. We're having a conversation about electoral politics. It doesn't mean anything. Okay. Twitter leftists are completely meaningless in this conversation. Okay. You want to know who actually played a big role here? Nancy Pelosi. That's who played a big role here. Okay. She played a much larger role than like any number of hammer and sickle accounts. So it's fine. Power doesn't come from above. It comes from below. Walz and Harris will be easier to organize under than Trump. But of course, they're still going to send in cops to beat the shit out of us anyway. Yes, exactly. Fun fact, Tim Walz is the only person on either ticket that doesn't wear makeup. He's also the only person, aside from Donald Trump, since the Carter administration that doesn't have a law degree, I'm pretty sure, of some sort. Right? Like, or is it like a VP that hasn't had that? Which is pretty wild. I mean, the motherfucker's a teacher, bro. He's a teacher. What are we talking about? That's it. He's a teacher. He's a football coach. He was in the army. Like, he's pretty solid. I don't really give a shit about like him being a veteran. I do care a lot more about him being a teacher. Just like with Ketanji Brown Jackson, I cared that she was a public defender. Okay? Like, these are very important things. This is life experience, especially in more formative years, that truly changes the way you view the world. Okay. If you're not a like out of touch, rich weirdo, like half of the Republican Party, for example, like that's cool. That's a good thing. That means that you are going to be the kind of guy that legitimately would advocate for certain positions because you have lived experience on those positions. Okay?
Sometimes life is as much about the lessons you learn as the lessons you teach. When I grew up, community was a way of life. My high school class was 24 people. I was related to half of them. I learned to be generous towards my neighbors, compromise without compromising my values, and work for the common good. My dad was in the Army, and with his encouragement, I joined the Army National Guard when I was 17. I served for 24 years. I used my GI benefits to go to college and become a public school teacher. I coached football and taught social studies for 20 years. And I tried to teach my students what small-town Nebraska taught me: respect, compromise, service to country. And so when I went into government, that's what I carried with me. I worked with Republicans to...
That's the thing, like, he also is like pretty popular in Congress too. Like, people love him. Like, amongst like, listen, the VP can play a big role in obviously, dominating Congress. I hate you leftists so much. Brother, you can hate me all day, every day. I still want you to get, I still want an easier future for your children. I still want you to be able to get healthcare. I still want you to be able to get educated for free. I still want all the government handouts that are given to massive multinational corporations that rake in billions of dollars of profit by abusing people like yourself to actually not get those handouts and for you to get those handouts instead. Okay. It doesn't matter. You can hate me all day, every day. Okay. I still want that for you because I know that when you get those things, you will be less angry because the hatred that you have is simply the anger that you have for the anger that you have festered, that you have manifested in your body due to all the underlying material circumstances that you're subjected to. Okay. Your life sucks. You get mad. And then people tell you, you should get mad at this guy. Okay. Rich people turn around and tell you, you should get mad at this other person. Okay. This other person who says you do deserve nice things, as a matter of fact. That's how it works. I hope that regardless of how you feel about me, I hope that, you still have a happy future. All right.
Pass an infrastructure bill, cut taxes for working families, signed paid leave into law. I codified abortion rights after Roe got overturned because I go to work for the common good. But enough about me. Let's talk about you, because that's what this election is about. It's about your future. It's about your family. And Vice President Harris knows that. She too grew up in a middle-class family. She too goes to work every day, making sure families can not just get by, but get ahead. We believe in the promise of America, in those values I learned in Nebraska, and we're ready to fight for them. Because as Kamala Harris says, when we fight, we win.
Who the fuck are you and what did you do with Hasan? Wait, what? I've never strayed away from my advocacy. One of the things that I routinely mention is Medicare for all means for all, okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your political background or your ideology is. Even Nazis get healthcare. Like, that's how it works. This is something that I've always advocated for and will continue to advocate for, regardless of what people think about me. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, there are heated moments where I yell at people when they come in and they like immediately attack like random marginalized groups or whatever, and they piss me off. But ultimately, it doesn't change my mentality on whether they deserve. It doesn't change my calculation on whether they deserve nice things or not. That's how it works. All right. Also, I'm in a really good mood. People who only watch clips of you saying you've changed law. Yeah, I know. People who only watch clips of me are the same people that like will watch one clip of me where I, describe a position that I've maintained for like 10 years. Right. And then they'll go, wow, incredibly rare Hasanabi W. And it's like, bro, it's just me being pro-trans. You know what I mean? Like, you think that's a rare take, brother? That's like the reason why you've seen all the negative takes about me in general. Anyway, so yeah, people would be like, wow, Hasan said he wants everyone to have health care. Rare Hasanabi W.
We are getting you on here before you are starting your workday, so I don't know if anyone's heard what your thoughts are on Kamala Harris naming Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her VP candidate. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, I love it. I'm very excited about Walz. Walz he's a fighter. He's done a lot with a very slim majority in the state legislature in Minnesota. And I've been writing for the Democratic Party of Minnesota for quite some time. So I'm actually very excited about Walz. I definitely think he was a better choice than Shapiro. A lot of people immediately think, oh, is it because of Israel or whatever? No, like Walz is also, going to be pro-Israel. Most Democrats are. In general, that's American foreign policy. My frustration with Josh Shapiro was actually because he was pro-school vouchers. He worked with the Republicans in the state when he became the governor to push for a school voucher program, and I think that's very right-wing for me. I don't really like that. I think that's immediately it spells that you're anti-teachers union, and that's a pretty solid, pretty important constituency for the Democratic Party. Tim Walz, on the other hand, is a teacher. So I'm very excited to hear how he will communicate a more progressive agenda for the Democratic Party. I think they actually have listened to the voters. They've been doing a lot of good things this past month, especially. They've almost become this competent party that I never really experienced. I never really thought they could be.
Did you bring a tripod to the court? Yeah, I always bring a tripod to the court to film myself playing basketball and stuff. But like this time it actually worked. So that I could whip this up because I forgot about this. Outside of playground lol, yeah, I'm flexing to all the right wingers that as someone who is a staunch anti-pedophile, I am allowed near playgrounds as they are not.
Getting you on here.
It's like this is something that you are not legally allowed to do. Half of the Republican Party's base of support. Anyway, my fiance says you have big pick-me energy, bro. You appeared in her dreams too, bro. Yeah. Have you talked to Dan before? No, I have not. This was Matt Dakar. Thank you for the 50 community gifted subs. What a crossover. What a crossover. People are saying, who the is this sweaty dude? Yeah. All of my like sports broadcaster friends that I've worked with over the years are going to be so shocked that I appeared on a sports show. Anyway, first time I hear you thanking someone for gifted subs. I always thank gifted subs. PFD's going to lose his mind at this. Yo, isn't he in LA right now? I'm going to see if I can get him on the broadcast. I'm going to send him a real quick text here, okay? See if he's around. This is becoming a sports broadcast at this point. We are a pro sports. Please don't take more days off this election cycle and only get so insane. Did you glaze LeBron on the show? I did. I talked about like Democrats on immigration are like LeBron James actively choosing to play chess against a grandmaster like Magnus Carlsen instead of playing a dunk competition where he would clear it. I did that analogy. I was like, don't talk about immigration. The least you could do is like, if you're going to talk about immigration, just like talk about how bad the Republican Party's immigration policies are. Another reason why Tim Walz appeals so well to rural areas in the Rust Belt. Yeah. The video's out, by the way. Are you pro sports? I am. How about Anthony Edwards? I love Anthony Edwards. Okay. Let's continue. Have you covered the racist riots in the UK? Yes, I have. I did extensively yesterday. Dude, this has been awesome. This has been so awesome. I'm telling you right now, I'm all over the place right now. I haven't been able to like give you guys the good stuff because a lot happened in such a short period of time. But honestly, let's just continue. I'm going to lock in.
And it can help you in the idea that, again, popular with governors, that helps you raise money. Popular with governors, that helps get more people on the team. Popular in small town America, create a little buzz for Democrats in places maybe where they're not always seen. And that is one of the Democratic Party's problems. In the years I've been doing this, Michael Dukakis was my first.
What? Bad take? You're basically saying the Republicans are right about immigration and we can't beat them? Saying immigration is good is actually better than avoiding the issue? No. My thing is, either set up a counter narrative that is objectively based and rooted within reality, okay? Or if you're going to talk about it, if you're going to talk about the issue of immigration, don't literally play into their narrative. You're wrong. You don't understand the point I'm making. I'm making the opposite point.
First campaign, 1988. He won 10 states.
Massachusetts miracle.
Yeah, Iowa and West Virginia were states won by Michael Dukakis in 1988. Those who are blue-collar Democrats who worked with their hands on farms or in coal mines or in factories. The Democrats have lost those votes. Tim Walz knows how to win those votes. Again, the presidential candidate decides who wins the election. But a vice presidential candidate can help a little bit, and she's made a governing choice here too. A progressive governor who was in the military, in the House, then elected statewide and re-elected statewide. So you have governing experience here, again, in a different mix, a Midwestern mix. She's a West Coast politician. So it's an interesting combination. Politics, I always call it a casserole. Right? You're bringing all these ingredients together and trying to make them work. The last thing I'll say is, in my travels over the last year, You know, one of the issues is people are so disillusioned with politics. That's why you have so-called double haters, people who don't like Trump and don't like Biden. Well, now President Biden's out of the race. So that gives the Democrats an opportunity. They have this opportunity to shake up the race, to get people to look again. So somebody who's a little different, a little unorthodox. Kamala Harris is different. She's a woman of color, right? So she's different in her own right. Now to bring somebody else different into the mix when you're trying to get another look, it's an interesting pick.
And you mentioned him being a happy warrior. That's not something that you always hear in politics. There's been a lot of people who have been really, really annoyed, pissed off is probably the best word you could use.
I'm gonna stop being annoying and shut up after this, but have you seen this Squid Tips video about V and motorcycles? It's really good, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I have no idea what any of those words you just said are. I'm sorry.
At the candidates recently using very dark language, et cetera, et cetera. He's not that guy.
No, he makes the case against Trump and Trumpism with a smile. And he says make it, he urges people to make it with a smile. And he urges people to say, don't demonize the voters. Don't demonize the people with whom you disagree. Try to have a conversation with them. Try to win them over with your own arguments and with your own details, not by saying you're a moron or you're an idiot or go away, I don't want to listen to you. Try to find out how they got there.
Minnesota nice.
What is the source of their disillusionment and their disaffection? Not just push them away because they disagree with you.
Yeah. Let's go to Jeff Zeleny now. Jeff, there is this question about what the relationship was before all this. How much did Kamala Harris know Tim Walz or have ever sort of talked to and had conversations with Tim Walz before the dark horse became the pick?
Hasanabi likes Anthony Edwards, a known homophobe. I'm sorry, bro. It's not the homophobia, okay? I don't know if you know this, but like that has no basis in my analysis. Okay, have you seen the way he balls? Okay, it's like Kyrie. Listen, I got a lot of love for Kyrie. Okay, and it has nothing to do with his takes. Don't come in here and pull some shit like that. Okay, Anthony Edwards also. Yep, you're right. Pro-abortion. This is true. Ne haber anne? Gördüm anne, konuşamam şu anda. I said, let me see.
Sir, I'm told not much. They did not have much of a relationship. But another source just a moment ago pointed me back to a visit that Vice President Harris took to the Twin Cities in Minnesota in March. And she visited a Planned Parenthood clinic. Of course, she has been the leading champion on the, at the time, Biden-Harris campaign for abortion rights. And that has been one of the really anthems of her candidacy. And Governor Walz was at this Planned Parenthood clinic. It's the first time a sitting vice president has visited such a clinic. And I'm told that she walked away impressed by his demeanor, how he carried himself, and she liked him, but did not know much about him. And of course, at the time, this would have been unthinkable. Just 16 days ago, she was the running mate. She was not looking for her own running mate. So that is what is remarkable about this. But really, in the last 2 weeks, Governor Walz went from a third-tier contender in the views of someone who's close to him to one of the top three. And they believe that was largely because of what he was doing sort of very publicly. He was doing every interview he could do, trying to make the case to some Democrats and make the case why he is the type and flavor of Democrat that could help win voters back. If you think back to it,
Mehdi Kyar with another 50 gifted. God damn, I didn't even see that shit, dude. That's crazy.
If you think back to sort of the Democratic Party, how it was not that long ago when Barack Obama won in 2008 and 2012, they won a lot of areas that are now red. John was just talking about many of those areas. Governor Walz is someone they believe who can help sort of win back these areas. There, of course, are limitations to this. Vice President Harris is at the top of the ticket. She is the standard bearer. So we will see in the coming days how much he can sort of give some calm and relief to some voters who are unsure about this. But the contrast is something I'm told the Harris campaign very much liked, and the chemistry is something that she also liked in the final days of this search. Guys?
Not a lawyer. Tim Walz also not a lawyer, which is unusual, right? I guess Al Gore wasn't a lawyer. I mean, it's not often. Social studies here. You don't often you see, politicians at this point who haven't had experience in the law, especially on the Democratic side. Let's go to MJ Lee for more reports.
Tim Walz literally met with Netanyahu. Oh my God. What's next? Are you going to tell me that he delivered a speech at AIPAC where he talked about how he's committed to the security of Israel? Wow. Look at how shocked I am. This is my shocked face. Oh my God. I can't believe it. That's so strange. That's such a strange thing that you're telling me about any American politician. I love people that literally will openly recognize that, like, AIPAC dominates Congress, okay? Dominates Congress. Like, you regularly talk about this. And then you turn around and you're like, look, another Democrat went to AIPAC and another Democrat met with Benjamin Netanyahu. It's like, yeah, no shit, dog. How is this shocking to you? How is this shocking to you? You're bringing up shit we know already. I know this already. I know. This is not like even remotely surprising to me. I don't know why it's surprising to you. What the like, you should know this. If you are someone who is already like very invested in Palestinian emancipation, you should be aware of this already. What the
Reporting on how we got to this point. MJ, what are you hearing now?
Yeah, John, I do think
So why the are you supporting him? Brother, there is virtually no other candidate. Like, there's like 3 that haven't touched AIPAC. Okay? What are you on right now? I'm saying that is the bipartisan position. Okay? What do you mean? You have to personally look at the rest of Congress. This is why I have also, time and time again, defended AOC on the issue of Israel too. People will be like, AOC is controlled opposition, blah, 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 blah. It's like, bro, you guys are so nutty because you have no understanding of how American Congress works in terms of like being pro-Israel. It's a non-starter, okay? Like, it is a non-starter. What are we talking about?
we should just take an extra beat to take stock.
It's always the same. Every election season is the same. I know. I love it because it's always like younger people that are just like first invested in politics. And you can tell like there's two different types of like young voters who are just getting into politics. Like one, the disillusioned voter that like is completely outside of the electoral politics scheme in general, recognizes a bourgeois democracy bullshit. It's a bullshit duopoly, but still chirps that there isn't like a Maoist candidate out there. Okay. And then the other type of voter who's like is like diehard invested in the Democratic Party and still thinks that the Democratic Party has their best interest in mind. Now, obviously, this is a unique moment in American politics. It's very different than the way I talk about how the Democratic Party operates in general. If you've been watching me for a long enough time, you probably know what I'm going to say for the most part on the Democratic Party's future prospects and how they operate normally. This is unique. This is a unique instance. But even before this instance, even before the last month of the Democratic Party demonstrating that they can be competent, there was still hella chatters in here being like, oh, but like you got to still vote, right? Like you got to do lesser evil voting, blah, 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 blah. Like all this shit. And that is because they're not disillusioned and haven't been fucked over time and time again after going out and door knocking, after going out and like being invested in a candidate or whatever. So it's like their maybe second election. So they don't know yet. They don't know how bad it is. They don't know how bad it gets. You're already being called a liberal. This is just an impossible conversation to have with anyone who's remotely online. I don't care. I am. Yeah, sure. Whatever. This is no different than when people go, oh, dude, you're a capitalist. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I love capitalism. I love the Democratic Party. I'm a liberal. I'm a reactionary conservative. I'm everything at all times, okay? And yet, for some weird reason, my position has not changed for the past 10 years. And every single thing that I've said should happen is literally happening. So who gives a f? Stop trying to fit me into the to like this neat little confine that you've created, neat little box that you've created in your mind. Just listen to what the f I'm saying, okay? I don't give a shit. I don't care. Yeah, okay. Label me whatever the fuck you want. Oh yeah, I'm 100% disillusioned because I actually have door knocked thousands of doors, but I understand that it's just me. To be fair, I don't think you're doing liberalism. I think the actual liberals in chat might be mishearing your take though. Anyway, let's continue.
Of really the really remarkable and extraordinary series of events that led us to this moment. It was 16 days ago that President Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 race. And as you've been talking about, Vice President Harris was able to lock up this nomination so quickly, but so much so that there was not even at any point, even a blip of a real conversation within the Democratic Party about whether they should consider consider anybody else other than Kamala Harris. And now we have not only Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, but within a matter of days, she has deliberated on and chosen the running mate of her choice. And it is now going to be the Harris-Walz ticket running against the Trump-Vance ticket. So we have seen such a remarkable and unprecedented transformation of the Democratic ticket in just, again, a matter of days. And I do think we should note that this moment really marks, in some ways, Kamala Harris defying President Biden. As we have talked about so much for years and years, President Biden and the advisors that are closest to him have made the argument repeatedly that the person at the top of the ticket had to be Joe Biden, that only he was capable of defeating Donald Trump, that with anybody else, the country really risked a second term Trump presidency. And in that, they were at least implicitly suggesting that the Democratic bench of talent was inadequate. But now here we have Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, now Tim Walz right there below her, and the two of them certainly do now represent sort of the future of the Democratic Party in a way that we would not have seen had Joe Biden remained at the top of the ticket. Now, one thing I will say, as we are now talking about this ticket facing up against President Trump and J.D. Vance on the other side of the aisle, I do think there's something to be said for the way that Walz has conducted himself.
How much of this was Kamala making the decision? How much was the DNC? I think Nancy Pelosi actively was petitioning for Walz. So I will give her the credit for that as well. I'll give Nancy the credit for replacing Biden, and I give Nancy the credit for pushing for Walz. That's my GOAT, okay? I despise her worldview, but that's my GOAT when it comes to making picks, making stock picks, and that's my goddamn GOAT when it comes to changing the history and the trajectory of the Democratic Party in such a dramatic fashion that this race went from a Donald Trump lock, okay, to what you are seeing unfold in front of your eyes. What? POV, you begged like a dog and didn't get it? They're calling you out? Wait, what? Dude, there is no point in this process where I said I don't want Walz. I said I like Walz a lot. I've glazed Walz for at least a year plus at this point. Anyway, let's continue.
In the last several weeks or so, as he has made the case effectively, a lot of Democrats would say, against Trump and Vance. You know, he is the guy that made the weird messaging really take hold as he described the Republicans on the other side of the aisle as those weird guys. That has been a really politically effective messaging, and he has clearly shown, whether he was intentionally auditioning for this job or not, that he can be that effective messenger for Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. So all of these things would have gone into that decision-making process. I know that we were talking about this a little bit in the last hour, but I do think sort of that vibes decision, how much that factored into things, just the idea that this is somebody that she would have had good personal chemistry with, that he is widely described as somebody that people just enjoy spending time with.
Let's go to senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang.
We're gonna get to like the way that the weirdo Republicans are reacting to this. I mean, here, John Podhoretz treats boy himself. Appointing Tim Walz, who praised Ilhan Omar, is like appointing the head of Sister Soldier's record label to run the Federal Communications Commission. And that's not like a random guy who's extremely online. That is the editor of Commentary Magazine, okay? This guy is supposed to be like a representative of the normal Republican side. They are actively bludgeoning themselves in the head. Okay, timely reference, brother. Oh no, I mean, he's always been a gross weirdo, okay? But it's great. Great messaging, man. Thank you, John Podhoretz. Thank you. Doing great. Doing great. Chaya Raichik running with the Libs of TikTok account owner, Chaya Raichik, running with hashtag Tampon Tim. You might be wondering why hashtag Tampon Tim? Because they made a push at Capitol to fund menstrual products for students in Minnesota public schools, saying that it is pads and tampons are as essential as toilet paper and soap in school bathrooms. That's why they're calling him Tampon Tim. Bro, you're so stupid. You are such a dumbass. Like, what are you saying? What the like, what's wrong with you? How could this be seen as a bad thing? What's next, dude? Are you going to yell at him for feeding children? Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Oh, man. Stupid ass Tim Walz. He wants to feed our children with free breakfast and lunch, dude. What a animal. What a bad guy he is.